We will now hear from Elizabeth from Georgia, who will read from the Bible.
Matthew. In those days came John the Baptist, preaching in the wilderness of Judea, and saying, Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Then cometh Jesus from Galilee to Jordan unto John, to be baptized of him. But John forbade him, saying, I have need to be baptized of thee, and comest thou to me? And Jesus answering said unto him, Suffer it to be so now, for thus it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness. Then he suffered him. And Jesus, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water, and lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove, and lighting upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward an hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Jesus said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them. And saith unto him, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then said Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. And Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. And when Jesus was come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laid and sick of a fever, and he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose and ministered unto them. When the even was come, they brought unto him many that were possessed with devils, and he cast out the spirits with his word, and healed all that were sick. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence, till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Psalms. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of the Lord.
The correlative reading will now be given by Lenny from Georgia.
I shall read from the first edition of Science and Health by Mary Baker Eddy. To conclude, man and the universe are governed in general by material law, but occasionally that spirit walks over this law and holds the control in its own hands is to divide the capacity of omnipotence and wisdom with matter, and to give the latter the more general claim. These are the false conclusions of belief. Understanding rebels at such folly. Mortal belief produces and governs all that sins, suffers, and dies. There is but one law, and but one lawgiver. The former is science, the latter God. Obedience to what you call material law prevents obedience to the spiritual law that enables you to handle deadly serpents unharmed and put matter under your feet. Like a barrister that would strengthen his plea, introducing the text, "Woe unto you, lawyers, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against man." You plead for recovery of God, and then shut out the aid of spirit through your material means, thus working against yourself and suffocating your own strength and ability. The law of Christ's truth finds all things possible to spirit, but the so-called laws of matter find spirit of no avail and demand obedience to them, reversing the basis and economy of being. To matter we deny the support of law. Our beliefs of matter are not correct, as Jesus clearly demonstrated, healing the sick, raising the dead, etc., contrary to them. We learn from the science of being that spirit, independent of the so-called laws of matter, throws off its idea in every formation that is real or immortal. There is no material law that creates and governs man, or that man should obey. Obedience to spiritual law is all that God requires, and this law abrogates matter and makes the body idea, and as such, harmonious and immortal. Admitting error produces it. But who or what is it that admits error? Not God, spirit, for error is not the result of intelligence. Error is a self-admission, an admission of selfhood where man is not, and this is all there is to it. Admitting a temptation is the only danger in it. Sickness and death are the opposites of harmony in life, and no law can support what Christ's truth destroys. The only law in existence, or that we should acknowledge, is God, the principle of man, controlling man and matter. Intelligence governs man in the universe, but never instituted material law to govern them, and spirit never produced matter. The Bible contains all our recipes for healing, and this is one of them. Agree with thine adversary quickly, while thou art in the way with him. This was one of our Master's rules for casting out error and healing the sick. It referred, however, not to legal proceedings or processes material, but to a mental tribunal and judgment. The adversary was not man, but error. Directions how to proceed with sin or sickness that would impose through belief a penalty for transgressing law that is not law, insomuch as justice is the moral signification of law, and injustice implies its absence. Because of fatigue, exposure to cold, or some supposed infringement of the so-called laws of health, we ignorantly admit there is danger of being sick, and this mental position decides the physical one. Therefore, agree with thine adversary quickly. Say to this belief, Get thee behind me, Satan, for thou savorest not the things that are of God, but those that are of man. It is not a broken moral law to which your penalty is attached, but a condition of matter, a demand from something wholly unintelligent and incapable of justice. God has no law of injustice. Wrong proceeds from belief and not truth. The only hope in sickness or sin is to agree quickly with thine adversary. That is, if tempted or if disease appears, to banish the temptation or the disease at once from the mind, and suffer it not to plead in its own behalf, lest you fall prey to your belief in the case. To agree quickly with thine adversary in the first instance of sickness is to take antagonistic grounds to it and prove your superiority over it. Not to admit disease is to conquer it. And if you understood the science of being, you admit no reality to aught but God and his idea. When you say, I am sick, you plead guilty. That is, you admit matter has sensation and will be delivered to the judge. In other words, into the hands of this belief that will deliver thee to the officer, disease, the ruler of mortal man that casts him into prison and fetters his entire being. But disease has no intelligence of its own or law whereby to do this. The Christianity of Jesus was the science of being. It destroyed sickness, sin, and death, denied personal sense, bore the cross, and reached the right hand of God, even the perfect principle of man. He overcame the world, temptations, and sins, proving their nothingness. He wrought through the science of being the example of salvation from sin, sickness, and death, and established the proof that he was Christ, and that Christ is God, the soul and life of man. It is science to put down the arguments of personal sense with the higher ones of soul.